for our next session, Advanced TV for Advanced Banking, please welcome Marion Hargett, Vice President Business Development from our awesome partners at the Trade Desk, to the stage. Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here and finally be back in person again. I don't know about you, but I've missed the Florida heat and actually connecting with people in person, so it's been great to be here. My name's Marion Hargett, and I lead the East Business Development team at the Trade Desk. And today we're going to be talking about CTV with one of our key partners, Kevin Howard, who leads the digital and CTV strategy for Ally Financial. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Marion. Again, Kevin Howard, the Executive Director of Digital and CTV and Growth Strategy at Ally. You can just call me the Digital OG if you want to at Ally. Been there about 11 years. Prior to that, I was on the agency side for about another 11 years in New York at Avenue A Razorfish.
Perfect. Well, we should have a good conversation because I spent about 18 years on the TV side of things, and over the last few years I've gotten involved with addressable TV and now CTV, and it's exciting to see all the innovation that's happening in the television space given these new advancements that are going on. So before we get started, let's warm up the room a little bit with some rapid fire questions on the TV space. Are you ready? I mean, it's not the trivia that we just saw, but let's lean in. So to stream or not to stream? Are you streaming? Are you binging? Are you binging the stream?
I'm doing all of it. I'm streaming, binging, non-binging. I think it depends. If I'm watching with my wife, it's more of episodic, and we pick a time. If she's not around, I'm binging like crazy, all the stuff that she hates. So yeah, it's all over the place.
Seemingly, the audience can absolutely relate to that. What is your guilty pleasure? What are you watching that your wife doesn't want to watch?
She loves like the old school British crime dramas, and unfortunately, we got to watch those together. So when she's not around, I'm watching Game of Thrones and House of Dragons and Stranger Things, and I love the 80s Cobra Kai, all that good stuff. So
okay, good. Cobra Kai was a good one. I didn't know Ralph Macchio was like back in the mix, but it's
great.
good.
Good stuff.
So you and I are both big sports fans. Both of our teams come out of the ACC. So on the stream, what sports are you streaming?
A lot of college sports. I mean, unfortunately, I'm stuck with the albatross of being from NC State. So every year I see us lose in the end. But a lot of times we're lucky. We're ranked this year, so we get to be on TV more often than not. But when we're not, I have to stream it through some way, either ACC network or ESPN. My wife went to Michigan, so she's a lot more prevalent in terms of TV, so it's a lot easier to see her games than mine.
Yeah, I can relate to you. I was there during the glory days of Florida State, and it's not quite the same anymore.
Exactly.
So we're about to jump into the discussion. Let's talk a little bit about CTV, and what's your favorite thing about the advertising that you're seeing in CTV? What does it allow you to do?
I think it's not obtrusive. I look at both non-advertising supported and advertising supported, and I never get perturbed by just the commercial breaks. They're very succinct, they're tight. They're usually anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds in length versus, the DVR experience in linear where it could last up to 3 minutes. You're like, when is this commercial DVR thing going to end? So I don't mind it. It's not obtrusive, so I like that.
I think a lot of people can relate to that commercial length. They don't want to have too many commercials interrupting. But given that you're here representing a brand and you want to have your commercial be seen, as you guys have started to dip your toe into the CTV space, how has the marketing strategy changed, and what was the impetus for that? Because obviously there was a key moment in time where you said, I'm going to move off of linear and move into some more of this data-informed environment.
Yeah, we haven't moved off linear yet. Let's be
not
clear.
100% off. Not 100%.
I would say that we've always been video-led, and
That's right.
I think the impetus that occurred was probably 3 or 4 years ago when we started to see the decline in linear. We started to see primetime viewing going down. And really, we started to augment our strategy and think about live sports and other ways that we could see live eyeballs and really build around that. The second piece that really started the wheels moving was just the pandemic and the explosion of content and production and just the accessibility. And just overnight, it's just like a ton of ways to connect and target. And then the third thing is just the platforms themselves and the ability to do it in a dynamic and automated way. It led us down a path during COVID to actually bring a lot of digital in-house so that we can do it ourselves and control our destiny. So we brought in a lot of the MarTech as well as the analytics practice.
And so you've learned a lot, obviously, through that last 3 years as you've continued to evolve that strategy. How has the TV and the video work together, both from
Sure.
a linear and CTV perspective?
Sure. I think as our linear strategy has changed, what we found is it was a little bit episodic because we were following the moments that mattered, and we were following sporting events and things like that. And there were times where we'd be dark and linear, and we were trying, before CTV really took off, finding ways to augment that exposure and those impressions, whether it was through OTT or YouTube or social or display. But it never really hit the mark. We never saw brand tick up. We actually saw it tick down. So we knew that the main screen in the household was extremely important. So what we really worked on with the agencies and our internal teams is figure out, what's the right comm strategy and what's the role that linear and CTV play so that we have a consistent exposure strategy throughout the year. So there's no peaks and valleys. And what we've seen is the brand awareness volatility has subsided, and we're actually seeing a nice uptick in favorability. So it's the two playing complement with each other and figuring out where we can plug the holes and reach those audiences that we really care about in a targeted way.
Yeah, it's so important. I think many brands struggle with exactly what you said, and there's been an evolution, obviously, that you've gone through. When you first started to where you are now, have you seen change, and then where do you see it going as we head forward?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the big change was just getting more succinct and focused with the agencies to figure out that strategy, that comms architect in terms of the role that each of the channels play. I think before we were a little bit scattered just because of just the way everything was not connected, the way everything, there was a lot of walled gardens and just like, how do you connect all this data? So I just say it's become a lot more tight in terms of the spots and dots, and then it frees us up to actually do really cool things and reach out to content providers and the networks to start thinking about ways we can go above and beyond the ad exposure and integrate ourselves into those experiences. So it's actually just elevated kind of how we think about video in general.
And it seems like the conversation has continued to evolve, right? You're getting richer, deeper partnerships with the publishers that you are working with because you're much tighter and closer to the activities and events that you want to be involved in.
Absolutely.
I know a big part of the overall strategy is key moments in time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some key moments in time that you've taken advantage of and how you've leaned in with the publishers? I know we talked a little bit about the NCAA, obviously a data point that we both are really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, it spans both CTV and linear. I think in terms of CTV, I mean, I think March Madness is a big thing that as a financial institution, we think it's a good place to play, but we've got restrictions because there's a competitor that locks us out of a lot of things. But we find ways to get creative and nimble with CTV and streaming and local TV and other ways to really have that presence in that moment. So you got to get creative with the mix you have, and then there's other things that aren't even CTV that we know are coming down the pipe through our negotiations, discussions with the networks that we want to be a part of. A good example would be during COVID when Adele did her big concert special. That was one of those things that we knew in our heart that it was going to be hugely watched because she hadn't been seen for years, and it was her first album in a long time. So that was just a huge breakthrough moment. And so it's just anticipating and working with your partners to figure out what's coming next, what do we think is going to be a hit, and jumping on board to be there.
And leaning in omnichannel across.
Absolutely. Keep that omnichannel perspective so that we have consistent presence, not only during the event, but after, and you have that follow-up surrounding it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. So obviously you guys have taken a really strong stance, and for any of you that don't know about this, I really want Kevin to share a little bit. I think I'm really passionate as a female and as an athlete, hearing about the work that you guys are doing to kind of balance the visual as people are consuming sports on television. Why don't you tell everybody about the commitment you guys have made to women's sport and what you're doing there to continue that important conversation.
I've got other teammates over here, my women teammates.
Yeah.
Now, it was a big deal. We made an announcement earlier this year that we were going to, in the next 5 years, for every dollar we spend on men's sports, we wanted to have equity with women's sports and spend the same amount. So that was the pledge we made. And we think it's the right thing to do. I mean, I have 2 daughters, and if you think about the ecosystem and just who they have to look up to, just having that exposure for women's sports could be huge for them. It could actually, open up doors for them as they think about their future. So we're super excited about it. I think the biggest announcement we did most recently is we're a big sponsor of the National Women's Soccer League. And for ever, their championship was always on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. when nobody was watching. So we worked with CBS and our agency partners to actually get primetime coverage for that for the first time ever on Saturday in October.
Yay!
So super excited about that. I think, thank you. I think, ultimately we know that it's going to be a tough effort for us. I think we've got to find, until we get more networks to take that commitment seriously and want to step up and help. Advertisers have started to make their announcements. I think we've heard that other brands are taking a similar stance. It's going to be a tough road for us, and to meet that commitment, we're going to do our best and try our hardest. And there's ways that we're going to do it with CTV, through college sports, and other ways. But we'd really love the networks to step up and help.
Yeah, it's such an important conversation because I think we've heard other panels today and yesterday talking about people being seen, and I think as a female and as an athlete, you want to be able to see someone that you can admire. I think that's why Serena has been such an important touchstone for many people that are playing tennis out there. So congratulations and good luck as you guys continue on that journey. So in the past, we've always thought about programming as a proxy to an audience. I'd love to hear how you guys are thinking about an audience-first approach and the things that you're doing to really use programmatic to bring those audiences forward.
Sure. I'm a data guy. I love being able to target and being micro precise with who we're talking to. I'd say that my brand compatriots here have helped soften me in terms of it's not only about following eyeballs, but there is some context at play. So I think for our CTV strategy, we do take it seriously that we want to be adjacent to content that we think is popular for our audience, is brand safe. So most of the deals we do through CTV are usually programmatic guaranteed or PMP or direct deals. So it's a combination. We don't do a lot of remnant. We take the audience first lens, and we definitely layer on the audience targeting, which is what I like, but we also have that brand lens on it as well.
Yeah, it's so important, and I think you talked about the pandemic and what that's done to accelerate some of the things that you're doing in your environment. As we think about advertising now, you need to be agile and you have to have transparency to some of the advertising. And so maybe help the audience understand a little bit about the way you guys are thinking about your investment from a transparent and agile type of approach, as opposed to set it and forget it. Maybe that's what TV used to be.
I think agility is definitely the name of the game. I think that's one of the reasons why we brought a lot of things in house, is so we could have hands on keyboard and people in rooms talking about the problem that we're trying to solve with the businesses. So that's hugely important. I also say that we challenge our agency partners. We want them to be disruptive, and we want them to come up with ideas that are relevant in culture, and they do. They definitely hit the mark, and then it's our job to be able to activate quickly. And what we find is that's sometimes difficult in more of the linear or above the line channels, but you can get very precise and transparent in terms of who you go after within CTV and social. So a lot of those disruptive ideas usually are born video, happen in CTV, and then we amplify through social amplification.
Yeah. And, one of the big conversations this year at the Upfront was around measurement. Everybody was talking about measurement, different currencies, how we're evaluating the investment that you're making. Tell me a little bit about how you're measuring CTV.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that one of the reasons I brought in a lot of that stuff in-house is I did want to crack that measurement equation, because I love the presentation earlier from Analytics Partners. I think it's totally on point in terms of the questions we get asked from our CEO, and like what we're hearing from the CFO is like, show, what's happening down the funnel and how this brand spend is impacting business. And a lot of what we do internally is solving that equation. So whether it's through multi-touch attribution, media mix modeling, bringing in softer metrics from the businesses, and also site metrics to understand kind of how this impacting the funnel. All that plays a part. And I think what we found is it really opened our eyes. Before, CTV, we could see the upticks in the brand, but we were like, was it really driving anything from a business impact? And what we saw through some of these measurement techniques is it had a big impact. It's actually an introducer for a lot of folks who actually came in through paid search or other channels that wouldn't have known about us. The incrementality that it created was pretty off the charts. So we've started to adjust budgets as a result, and continue to do so.
Yeah, and I think one of the things also too that resonated with me in our chat before we came up to talk was a little bit about how you're testing different creatives also in the CTV space, because it's an area where you can kind of test and learn as you go.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I mean, again, we're big into video. We're proud of the spots and things that we put out in the marketplace, but we also want to be able to test. We talk to different audiences. We have a younger audience that we're trying to grow into, multi-line business consumers, and we want them to like start their financial journey with us. But we also have older demographics who, are more in the retirement phase, and like we want them to also choose us for wealth management or whatever it may be. So they're two different, and there's multiple sub-audiences within, but being able to have different video treatments and target them effectively and see what's working has been huge for us before we roll it out nationally, for instance.
Yeah, makes sense. And, there's a lot of folks both on the video stream as well as in the audience that, are starting their journey in CTV. And what could you share just to help them along that? And what have you learned? Because obviously there's a lot of evolution as you've gone through the last 3 years of this journey.
Yeah, I would say, know what you want from CTV. Have a North Star and be able to measure. I think a lot of people want to get in the CTV game just to check the box and tell, the person down the hallway that, hey, we're running in CTV, but there's definitely things that you should look to accomplish. For us, it was how do you create brand consistency so that we can actually see our awareness metrics stay level and uptick. For others, it may be, hey, my demographic is 25 and less. Good luck finding them in linear. So CTV is going to be a key part of your brand strategy. So how do you think about that? And then obviously what we talked about before, creative testing is another use case. But there's many more, but you got to figure out what that is. And I think the second thing you have to do is, how are you going to accomplish that task? So we chose to accomplish the task by bringing it in-house so it could be closer to the data, the insights, the planning tools, and work closely with our internal teams on our strategy. And that's one approach. The other approach is find an agency partner who is, very proficient and very transparent in this space and is able to articulate what's happening to keep you knowledgeable about what's going on.
Yeah, because the space is changing so rapidly. It's almost like you're a student every single day of new things that are coming at you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
crazy times for sure. So let's close with a prediction. In 3 years, the majority of video will be and TV spend will be transacted.
It'll definitely be more CTV. I think the judge is still out on what the percentages are going to be. I think it's going to be partial programmatic, but I still think the content creators are still going to want to have some direct relationships with advertisers and do unique partnerships. Those may replace the upfronts or what's now known as the upfronts. And then there's a whole dynamic in terms of the other streaming devices in your household and how that's going to take hold. I mean, we have a big partnership with Twitch because we know that's an important audience. That's another streaming avenue, which isn't exactly the biggest screen in the household, but it is for the gamers. But that's important for us. And I think TikTok's another example where I think we've heard a lot of presentations on this. It's just a huge white canvas right now in terms of what you can do there. And so I think there's a lot of wood to chop, and we're excited about that. So I think it's going to morph. I think linear is going to become smaller and smaller. I think CTV is going to rise. It's going to be split between data-driven and those direct relationships. And then there's going to be, how do you solve that other 20% of streaming in these other environments?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think media has become more personalized than ever before, with people wanting to be able to consume when they want, how they want, and off of the device they want through the channel that they're most interested in. And, just a few key takeaways before we open it up for the audience to ask some questions to Kevin. As you think about it today, more streaming services are taking place than ever before. There's content everywhere. It's almost like you don't have enough hours in the day to consume the amount of content that's coming at you. And for the first time ever, streaming is actually past cable, which, wasn't sure would happen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Marketing across all verticals is really taking advantage of this integrated and connected TV environment. And, now is the time for all brands really to be asking questions, challenging their agencies, and really and themselves, not even their agencies, just challenging themselves to think about new, different ways to reach the consumer, because I don't think it's one size fits all and it certainly is an opportunity to have innovation.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think we'll open it up for any questions that the audience might have. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
Or anything that might be coming in from the stream, our open web. Oh, good. Hi.
Hi, I'm Meredith Conti from Tegna. We're a local media company across the country that has a lot of streaming, and Premion as a partner of ours. As you look down the road, maybe 2 to 4 years, given the number of players there are, both on the SVOD and the AVOD side, what is your prediction in terms of consolidation of all those content players, and will that make your life easier or harder, having to deal with fewer players and figure out which content allies potential customers kind of drive to?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already seen a little bit of consolidation. I think it will continue. I mean, there's definitely gorillas in the midst that are going to be big and bigger in the future. And Netflix, and with their announcement, I think we're going to see how that plays out. But I do think some of the smaller players, it is a little bit of a challenge if they're struggling for content, or they only have 1 or 2 pieces of content that you want to be around. It's hard to. What I'd love to be able to do in the future is be able to target specific shows within streaming. That's still kind of not there yet, and I think that would make it irrelevant, because as long as we could get there, that would be great. But it's going to be tough. I don't have the right prediction, but I still think the Hulus, the Netflix, the established players, they're going to be kind of the main networks of prime TV that ABC, NBC, CBS were.
Thanks, Meredith. Someone else? Hi.
Hi, I'm Sarah Owens from Media Matters, and I'm curious, you mentioned that you do some stuff in-house, and then you also work with agency partners. How do you think about, how do you decide what you in-house and what you have your agency partners do from a media standpoint? And then how do you make sure the teams are working well together? Because you want your media mix to all work together.
It's a great question. I'd say we've got really good agency partners. They obviously don't like that we brought certain things in-house, but they also understand the dynamic of where data is going and the importance of owning your data and being able to move forward based upon that. So they took it in good stride, and I think we've restructured our teams to be more collaborative. So the folks sitting around you are my counterparts, but they really lead the charge with the brand agencies in terms of what's the vision of the creative, and then we work seamlessly and harmoniously with the media agency on how are we going to carve up serving up that creative. And for the most part, it's been done really well. I'd say that there's certain places where holding company agencies or agencies in general add a lot of value in terms of certain partnerships or certain access that our in-house team will never be able to do. And then there's cases where the data-led approach and what our team can deliver, it's just going to be a lot more agile, more transparent, and quicker for us to do. So there's a compromise based upon what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Any more questions? Oh, here's another one.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin. Just curious if you could expand how you're leveraging your first-party data, your customer data in the MarTech side of things, and I guess just any more you would be willing to share around the measurement side. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I want to give away all the secret sauce of the data. It is a big initiative of ours, as it is for most. We've spent a lot of time. I'm on a committee and a team around digital transformation within the bank. So there's a lot of rework in terms of how our data is organized and how we're going to future-proof ourselves and make sure that it connects with all the platforms that we're going to leverage. I'm not going to Pollyanna and say that everything's perfect yet. It's not. So some of the secret sauce is it's still messy. But a lot of the first-party data that we push to the platforms, we do it either through CDP or through LiveRamp, depending on the use case and where we need to push it. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but Yeah, so the first party data is good for a lot of our CRM efforts. So I think one of the things that we know is there's a lot of customers we have that have a primary banking relationship, but they don't know about our mortgage business. They don't know about our wealth business. They don't know about our auto business. They don't know about our credit card business. So we do see opportunity, and we do work closely with our CRM partners to figure out how we amplify our brand and our products to them in a CTV environment. And then we work together to do test and control to see, hey, did that ad exposure, did surrounding them in CTV and social, along with the CRM efforts, drive higher lift versus just an email or an on-site personalization tactic.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks again, Kevin, for your time.
You.